Hello everyone, welcome back. It's been a while. You know, it seems to be a habit of mine here to post videos somewhat consistently and then disappear off the face of the earth for a while. And I know it's not good for the YouTube, but right now this is not like a high priority in my life. It's just something fun I like to do, and so when life happens, YouTube is the first thing to go, you know? I was also sick again. This winter has been awful with the colds and the, like, if you can still tell, my voice is still a little bit weird. I'm still a little stuffy, still have a lingering cough. Yeah, this winter has been rough with the sickness. So those are some reasons. And I was also gone to Georgia to visit my family and attend a cousin's wedding one weekend as well, and so I just wasn't filming. There we go. But anyway, I'm here to do my February wrap-up and talk about my March reading plans. So if you've been following me for a while or have seen some previous videos, you know that for January and February I was doing the Brighter Winter Reading Challenge, and February was the last month for that. So I was able to complete 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 prompts for that, for the February challenge. Did not get as much done as I thought I would. I hit a major reading slump this month. I only read 6 books. So yeah, I loved the books, like pretty much all of the books that I read this month I loved, and they're all 5 stars, I believe, most of them. So I really enjoyed the books that I read, but I just wasn't reading as much, and I was just taking my time with the books that I was reading because, yeah, like I said, I wasn't filming because of everything that was going on in February, and so yeah, that also meant that I wasn't reading as much. February normally is like my favorite month of the year. I know it's the shortest, but it's my birthday month, and I don't know, I've always loved February, probably because it's my birthday month, I don't know. But February of last year was when I lost our first baby to miscarriage, and that was right before my 25th birthday, and I did not enjoy my 25th birthday for obvious reasons, and was not looking forward to any other birthdays. Like last year, my 25th year was hard, and yeah, but it was also good in many ways when I look back, and I know that yeah, that God was walking with me through it all, and that He is still faithful and good. And yet at the same time, I was not looking forward to my next birthday. I'm now 26. And I know that's still young for many aspects, but it also feels old. Like, I'm pushing 30 now. I'm closer to 30 than 20, and that's just weird to me. And yeah. But yeah, basically because last year was so hard, I was just not really looking forward to this next year. But I am trying to change my outlook and perspective on getting older. Anyway, and one of the things I did on my birthday was go hiking, because I absolutely love hiking, and I love outdoorsy things like climbing the mountains and camping and whitewater rafting, like all of those adventurous outdoor things. I love that. It's what makes my heart come alive, just as much as reading does, pretty much. And yeah, so I decided on my 26th birthday to hike a mountain peak that's right here in our county that it's fairly simple, actually. It's not even, I think the elevation is like 7,000 something, so it's not that big of a mountain, but it was still something that I hadn't done yet since living here for, what, 4 years? Almost 4 years now, and so that's what I decided to do. I went with a friend, and we had the best time. It was so much fun, and it just did my heart so good to be out in nature again and climbing and hiking mountains, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I think some of my biggest fears of getting old is that I'm missing out on things, because when you're younger, you have more energy and more like ambition to go out and do things like hiking. I don't know, other things too. But the thought of getting old and not doing anything and just sitting around for the rest of my life just was like almost making me panic. I have a serious case of FOMO, in case anyone is wondering. I have a very intense fear of missing out, and like missing out on the chances to go do fun things like that. And to me, it seems like when people get older, they do fewer things. And I don't want that to be me, you know? So I was just not looking forward to getting old. But you know what? That's ridiculous because it's my choice to go out and do things, and it's other people's choice to stop doing things when they get old. So it's whatever. I'm working through it and I'm trying to get a better perspective of getting old. So I don't know why we're talking about this. This book is about a February reading wrap up, but anyway, let's get on to the wrap up. So delicious. And I'm wearing lighter colors because it's March now and it's kind of warm outside and I'm so excited. I'm so ready for spring, and so I'm wearing the spring colors. My skirt is pink. So a fun spring colored cup, you know, all the things, because I'm excited for spring and I'm so ready for the cold, the winter just to be done and snow to be gone. Anyway, let's get on to the wrap up. That's what you're here for, right? So I'm just gonna go in order. Like I said, most of these books are 4 or 5 stars. And so I'm just gonna go in order that I read them. The first one that I read was The Hawk and the Jewel by Lori Wick. And this was a reread for me because one of the prompts for the Brighter Winter Reading Challenge was to reread a favorite. And I also read it in a day to fulfill another prompt. So I knocked off 2 with this book, but that was probably, I think that was the, I've kept track. That was the 12th time that I've read this book. I absolutely love it. It's like one of my all-time favorite books. I don't know why. Maybe, I think it was maybe because it was the first historical fiction romance book that I read when I was a young teenager, and I don't know. I just absolutely love this story so much. We follow Sunny, who as a 2-year-old, I believe, she was off sailing with her parents, and there was a storm, and basically they were rowing to shore on a smaller boat, and it was capsized, and Sunny and her mom were tossed out and lost at sea. Her mom's body was washed up on shore, and so her dad found his wife's body, but the country, I'm not even sure where the country is and if it's even like a real country. I've never actually looked it up. But basically the ruler of that country found Sunny as a little girl and wanted to keep her, and so he told her dad that she did not make it, or they never found a body. And so Sunny's dad took his wife's body back to England for a burial and just assumed that his little girl was lost at sea, which is pretty understandable. She was 2 and it was a storm out in the middle of the ocean. So yeah, but anyway, when she gets older, she knows she's English, she knows she doesn't fit into the country and the culture there that she's growing up in, and she's always curious about England, and finally the ruler of that country decides to send her back to her family. And so a family friend, Mr. Brandon, owns a ship, and so he comes to pick up Sunny, but Sunny thinks that she is just visiting, you know, like just gonna explore the ship. She doesn't know she's actually leaving until they actually leave. So it's a whole story like of why there's like a bit of a secret and like hidden intent as to why the ruler sent her away when he did. But that's just a minor point in the story. Basically, it's just Sunny going back to England, finding her place in her family that she didn't know she had, and yeah, her family are Christians and she is not, and so it also follows her journey to faith, and I absolutely love it. Like I said, Lori Wick always portrays the gospel so clearly and beautifully in her stories, and just following Sunny's story through all of that and navigating the different romances. Like, she's really young, like 13 or 14 when she first comes to her family, and anyway, there's just a lot to the story. Like I said, I've read it 12 times and I still love it. Like, I know exactly how it's going to turn out. I know all of the little details, but it's still just so good and I love it, and I'm so glad I was able to pick it up again, and now I just want to finish the rest of the series. But yes, 5 stars always for this one. Okay, this next one. I loved this book so much that I literally sat there like this, hugging it after I finished it for a good 2 minutes. I don't know. But when I tell you I loved this book, Just so, so good. Look at all those tabs. Can you see? Got lots of tabs in there. Anyway, what is the book? Carmen, you should tell them. It's Surprised by Oxford by Carolyn Weber, I think is how you say her last name. It is a memoir, but it reads like a novel. And her writing is just fantastic. I don't know, and now I just want to visit Oxford. I love it so much that I don't even know how to talk about it. What do I say about it? I don't know. Basically, the story starts out of, like, she gives a brief introduction to her life and her growing up years and how she ended up at Oxford and to get a degree in literature or something. I'm not exactly sure what her degree was, but it was a lot of literature. Basically, she has so many quotes and things in here from poets and writers, and it's just fun. Like this, it reads like I said, it reads like a novel, but there's like so much prose, and I don't know. Her writing is just immaculate. I love it so, so much. But basically, it is a story, it's a journey to faith story of how she became a Christian while attending Oxford. And it's just a beautiful, I love it. I love her perspective. I was underlining so many things, tabbing so many spots. Like, I would totally read this book again, over and over, honestly, just because it's just so good. And also there's like an underlying romantic theme through it all, okay? So, like I said, it could just basically be a romance story and a journey to faith story, you know? Because it's, and the thing is, it's true. So that makes it even more beautiful. But anyway, highly, highly recommend. I think this book will probably make it onto my top 5 all-time favorite books that I've ever read. It's just so good, and I think everyone should read it. For sure. And it will for sure make you want to visit Oxford. If you didn't already, it'll make, I just want to go visit this university now and attend some of the little lectures and meetings and just be immersed in the world of literary nerds. That just sounds so amazing. And also, like, her descriptions of the English countryside just makes me want to visit England even more. I don't know. It's just so good, okay? So good. One thing that I'll have to say about this particular edition, I bought it off of Amazon used books, and there is a page torn out. And it was getting, like, it was right at a very pivotal moment where it was just getting so good. And I was like, why is this page torn out? I was very frustrated. I was like, who does that? And it seemed like it was intentional, because this was the book that we read for February for our book club. And so I just asked one of the other girls in the club to just send me a picture of the page. And so, like, there were some things on the page that I could maybe understand why someone would tear it out, but at the same time there are other topics in here that you would think they would have also torn out if that was their thinking. Basically, I was just very disappointed that the page was missing, so I might have to find another copy that has all the pages included and then just transfer all of my tabs into that book. I don't know, but I love this book. It was so good. Oh yes, and also this one fulfilled the February prompt for Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, so that worked great. 5 stars. I would give it 10 stars if that would be such a rating, because I loved it that much. So yes, there we have it. Okay, so then the next one was Counted with the Stars by Connilyn Cossette. This one is the first one in a series, or maybe just a trilogy, I don't know, of Out from Egypt. This was the book that the Christian fiction booktube people, I don't even know what it's called. This was the pick for February. And so I found it at our library here, and so I grabbed it. I rated this one 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. This is biblical fiction set during the Great Exodus from Egypt, when the Israelites left Egypt. And like with all the plagues and everything, but this is from the perspective of an Egyptian girl, and she was sold into, I think her name is Kaya, I think that's how you would say it. She was sold into slavery because her father went into debt, and so she was also a slave within Egypt, even though she was a native Egyptian. But because of varying circumstances and meeting a Jewish girl who she became friends with, she and her family decided to leave with the Israelites when they fled Egypt. And so just following the story was really fun. Like, Moses shows up in a very brief meeting with her. Like, she ends up talking to him when they were out in the desert. But yeah, reading it from the perspective of an Egyptian and like not knowing why all of these plagues were happening on Egypt, like, you just never think about that thing. If you grew up hearing all of the stories about the plagues in Egypt and just thinking how miserable it would have been with the water turning to blood and the flies and the frogs everywhere, but like not understanding why it was happening, because obviously there would have been millions of people within Egypt who would have been affected by these plagues but had no idea why they were happening, because they wouldn't have known about Moses going to Pharaoh and saying, let my people go, and Pharaoh saying no, and Moses saying, well, okay, here's what's going to happen now, and God sending all of these plagues. Like, the people all over Egypt would not have really known that this was happening, and then all of these plagues start happening and they're like, what is going on? I just really enjoyed reading it from that perspective, because I never thought about it in that way before. But anyway, I really did enjoy the book. I'm not really sure why I didn't end up giving it 5 stars. Maybe I didn't just like totally love it. Because yeah, I usually leave 5 stars for just like completely and totally falling in love with the book. I don't know. I really did enjoy it though, and I highly recommend it, and I'm really excited to finish the rest of the series. I'm excited to see where it goes. Because I know if you know the story of the Israelites, they end up wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years. And so like, do we follow Kaya the whole time? Like, do we ever make it to the promised land in this series? Or is it just all wandering around in the wilderness? Does it jump ahead? Because you know that the people who left Egypt never made it to the promised land because they wandered around in the wilderness for 40 years and they complained, they disobeyed, and so God told them they won't be able to go. And so their children were the only ones who got to go. So like, does she ever, like, she would probably not make it to the promised land, you know? I don't know. I'm just excited to see where the rest of the series goes. So the next one that I read was a mid-grade book. It was just called Darcy, and it's by Joni, Earekson, Tada. And this one was to fulfill the prompt for the Brighter Winter Reading Challenge of reading a book about a disability. And so Darcy is a young girl. I think she's around 12 or 13. But there was an accident, kind of similar to Joni's story. There was just an accident and she was paralyzed from her waist down, Darcy, in the story. And just her navigating, like, just going to school, a daily life with her friends, and having to be in a wheelchair, and learning to trust God and all of that. It was a very sweet story, but I didn't totally love it. It just wasn't like my kind of middle grade book, and so I only ended up rating it 3 stars, I believe. I'll put the picture here. If I can find it. I tried finding it on Goodreads and it did not even have a cover of the book on Goodreads. So I don't know, but I'll try to find one and put it here. But that is another one that I read. The next one that I read was Susie Finkbeiner's The Nature of Small Birds. This book. It's beautiful. I think that's a great word to go into it. This one fulfilled one of the prompts of reading a book where siblings or family are like the main characters in the book, and also one that is told from multiple point of views, and this one fit those perfectly. I feel like I should just read the back because I feel like that explains it a little bit better than I can explain of what this book is actually about. But basically, in 1975, 3,000 children were airlifted out of Saigon to be adopted into Western homes. When one of those children announces her plans to return to Vietnam to find her birth mother, her loving adopted family is suddenly thrown back to the events surrounding her unconventional arrival in their lives. Mindy's father grapples with the tension between holding on tightly and letting his daughter spread her wings. Her mother undergoes the emotional roller coaster inherent in the adoption of a child from a war-torn country, discovering the joy hidden amid the difficulties. And Mindy and her sister struggle to find the strength to accept each other as they both discover who they truly are. Told through 3 distinct voices in 3 compelling timelines, The Nature of Small Birds is a hopeful story that explores the meaning of family far beyond genetic code. I feel like that just describes it perfectly. But anyway, I really, really loved the book and I loved the story. I will say I think I rated it 5 stars. It was just 4. And I think that's only because I'm realizing that it's really hard for me to totally love the setup of this kind of book where you're jumping back and forth in a timeline constantly. Like every other chapter is like you're in present day and then you jump back to another a completely different year. And so like just trying to follow that is a little bit more difficult. I think I definitely enjoy books that like start from the beginning of the story and move up through the years in the story. So that was the only thing, like, but that's just my mind thing. It's nothing against this book because this was a beautiful book. I totally loved it and I'm really excited to read some of her other books. But yes, yeah, I love Susie Finkbeiner's writing. This was the first book that I've read by her and yeah, I loved it. I'm excited to read more of hers. And then the last one that I read this month was Lady Jayne Disappears by Joanna Davidson Politano. This one was given to me by Erica because one of the prompts was to do a blind book exchange, and this was the one she chose for me. I loved it. I was a little worried that I wasn't like... Erica loved it so much and I just felt all this pressure to really love this book, and I was kind of worried like what if I don't actually love it? But no worries. I really, really, really enjoyed the story. I think this one has been around on the Christian BookTube circles for a while, and I'm just now getting to it. But anyway, I loved it. Basically, we follow Orelai as she leaves the debtor's prison. Her father was in debtor's prison and ended up passing away, and so she leaves to go live with her extended family. While in debtor's prison, her father wrote books under the name of Nathaniel Droll, and she helped her father write the books while in debtor's prison, and then after he passed away, she continued writing under the name of her father. And everyone's trying to figure out who this Nathaniel Droll is. But anyway, she goes to live with her extended family, but is also trying to figure out what happened to her mother because she disappeared, just simply vanished soon after she was born. And so she's trying to figure out the mystery of that, and I don't know. So there is definitely a mystery element in this story. Yeah, and just Orelai trying to figure out how she fits in with this wealthy family, and all of that. And there's also a romance in this book, and it was very sweet and very beautiful, and I loved it so much. 5 stars for this book. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to read more of Joanna's books because, yeah, that was the first one that I read of hers. My plans for March. What am I gonna do? Okay, so here's the thing. Like I said, February kind of felt like I was in a little bit of a reading slump. Like I loved all the books that I read, but I wasn't motivated to read. I was mostly just like reading the books to fulfill the challenges. And I think I discovered that while I love doing this Brighter Winter Reading Challenge every year, I think usually by the time February rolls around, I'm just kind of done with trying to fulfill the challenges, and I want to just pick up whatever book I feel like reading and go for it. Like, so because I'm very much of a mood reader. While the January reading was excellent and like I was in the mood to read every book that I read in January, in February there were so many other books that I wanted to just pick up and read but I wasn't letting myself because I was trying to read these books for the challenge, and I think that's why I kind of got into a slump. So I was kind of thinking for March that I would join in on mid-grade March reading and all of that, and just read a lot of mid-grade books. And I probably will, but I'm not going to have a set TBR for March because I so desperately want to just mood read, and that's just what I'm going to do. So I have no idea what I'm going to be picking up this month. So you guys will just get to see at the end of the month when I do a wrap-up what I read in March. I will say I am reading one book right now, Being Mary Bennet. I'll put the book cover here, and that is the book club that I'm a part of, pick for... We started it in February, finishing it in March. Like, we're in March now and I'm still not quite finished with the book. But yeah, it's basically a modern day story of a girl who like feels like she's basically Mary Bennet in, like, you know, Pride and Prejudice, the Bennet sisters. And how she just wants to change that because everybody wants to be a Lizzie Bennet in their life story and not a Mary Bennet. And so yeah, it's very, I'm enjoying it so far. It's very comical and like it's just a fun light read. There has been some language already, and one of her sisters actually has a wife, and so like there's that element in it. Normally I would probably just DNF a book for that, but it is a book club pick of the month and we decided to just go ahead and keep reading it because it is just a minor point. I don't think it actually, like, it hasn't come up again. Like, it was just the one time mentioned, which I still don't love it, but you know, there is that for those of you who are curious about reading it, like just giving that heads up. But otherwise I am really enjoying the story and I need to finish it because we're getting together tomorrow. Oh boy, we're getting together tomorrow to discuss it and I'm only 40% through the book. It's a whole fiasco because I ordered it off a book outlet almost a month ago, and I ordered another book, and which you'll see in, I'm hoping to do a book haul soon, but I got the package and opened it up and it was the other book that I ordered, and Being Mary Bennet was not in there. And so I quickly messaged them and I'm like, hey, it says it was delivered, it's not in the box, what can we do? And they're like, well, we do still have some in stock, so we'll go ahead and send you another one. And they did send me another one, but it's still not here. And so I was like, I'm not gonna be able to read this book before we even get together, and so I bought it on Kindle. So I paid for this book twice, which is kind of ridiculous. I'll probably just like sell the actual hard copy cover then, because I don't think I actually want to keep the book. I don't think I'll read it again. But anyway, it was a whole fiasco. That's why I'm not finished with it yet, because I was waiting on the book to get here, then I realized it wasn't going to get here, so I had to buy it on Kindle and quickly start reading it. But anyway, there's that. That is what I'm currently reading. Also, actually, this is another book that I want to read in March. I think Amanda and Oshina were reading it. I grabbed it out of the library when I saw that they were reading it because it just sounded interesting, and the cover is gorgeous. Like, it's beautiful. I love it. I think it's just a YA. I don't know that it's fantasy. It might be somewhat of a fantasy type of book. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a YA. But either way, I want to pick that. I want to quickly read that book before I have to return it back to the library. So that is probably another one I will read in March. But otherwise, I'm just going to be mood reading. I'm going to call it Mood Read March. So there we go. But I think that's it. This video, I feel like, got a little bit longer than I expected it to because I'm just a chatterbox today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!